Hello, everyone, and welcome to SoulWhat, a Soultopia production with our producer, Matt Stoker. I am your host, Michelle Welch.
And I'm Roger Welch. So what's up today, Michelle?
Well, today we have the legendary, the one and only Ciro Marchetti with us. I didn't say that as fancy as I want. You say that name.
Ciro Marchetti.
You didn't say
No,
it
I didn't
so
get it in
fancy. You try there, Matt. Can you say it better than me?
It helps if I turn my mic on. He said, Ciro Marchetti. I'm not going to even try.
Ciro Marchetti.
I'll just do a terrible accent if I try it.
Well, so everyone who's loving Ciro out there because he has so many fans and so many followers and everybody's so excited that he's on our show tonight, they're all going, oh, crap, she just totally butchered the name. Yeah, they're all going, it's Ciro Marchetti. Yes, and so we have Ciro on with us. And I am a super fan. I admit it. And we're all super fans of Ciro. I'm going to talk about it in a little while. I have on Ciro vintage, just some of Ciro's kimonos. We'll talk about those in a little while. I'm going to do quick changes throughout the thing. That's going to be fun, right? Okay, so Ciro.
It's going to be something, all right.
So Ciro, you guys, I don't know if you can see, if you're on Ciro now, but I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Ciro. And he will tell you a little bit, maybe if he wants to, about his extensive, extremely impressive bio. But here's what I want to tell you about Ciro. He is probably the most legendary, probably, I think, best-selling, most prolific author of tarot decks that there is. He may correct me, but I believe he is. And he has written almost these, just so many amazing decks. We have a lot to show you tonight. And I just ordered a bunch too. And Ciro can also correct me on this, but I think they're coming out with some of his decks in mini sizes, actually, also. And you guys, his artwork is in puzzle forms, which he knows how much I love puzzles. And during the pandemic, this man, my hero, somebody I've always been a fangirl of, sent me puzzles. And so everything you can think of, he has done in the tarot world. And he is just an artist. Truly, he really is. What year did he come to our store?
3 years ago?
3 years ago?
Yeah.
And did this wonderful presentation in our store, and was probably max capacity for here in Carrollton that we could have, and taught us how he put all his tarot together and told us some amazing stories and all the people he's met. So he is a true artist and a true, really genius at putting things together. He does movies, and I can't do him justice with all the great things he's done for this business and for just you name it. Plus, not only that, he's a showman. He is really, really, really funny. He lives in Miami, Florida, with his beautiful wife and his daughter. I never know if it's Sasha or Sasha, but she's absolutely gorgeous. And their dogs, I think now 2 dogs. And so anyway, Ciro, I'm going to let you talk. This is...
You forgot, he's a hell of a dancer, too.
Oh, okay, yeah. I can't forget that he's really funny. And then, yeah, he's a really, really great dancer. And he's been known to, hang out with a chicken or a rooster or two in Italy, I think it was. So here he is, the one and only Ciro Marchetti. You guys, I'm so excited he's on our show. How are you doing, Ciro?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for that intro. How can I possibly live up to that? But anyway, hi, gorgeous, and hi to you as well, Michelle. Oh dear, good to be here. It's I remember fondly my trip to Dallas and that wonderful red pickup, which I think you could have fit in my little Mini Cooper just in the back seat, yeah?
Yeah,
Yes.
Pretty close.
Anyway, yes. So here we are. What would you like to pick my brains about?
anything and everything. So, is it true? Let's just start really quickly to answer that question. Is it true that you are making your deck into one of these mini decks? Those are getting kind of popular now.
I've been making the minis for several years, in fact.
Okay, so I'm
it's
behind.
just that there's various sizes, and I did as an experiment a micro size, which is even more tiny, and so tiny, in fact, that I thought it was a bit of a novelty, just a gimmick. But when I posted some photos of it on Facebook, it was quite extraordinary, the reaction it got, you know. Personally, I can't imagine how someone could actually fumble their way through it. But yeah, so I'll be offering probably in the next few weeks micro-sized versions of some of the decks. I've modified the images to maximize as best I can the very, very small size that they are. You know, I've sort of eliminated borders and extraneous sort of information like that, and just sort of concentrated on the image. So we'll see. It's a little novelty collector's piece, something you can put in your handbag, you know?
Well, that's interesting because I think I do remember that now, and it's interesting because it seems as though more and more of the mini decks are coming out, and I do think that now more mini decks are coming out in other decks. So once again, Ciro, you are setting the stage for other decks, right? You're always kind of the groundbreaker for what everybody else is doing. Is that not true?
Well, not in an absolute sense, but certainly on a few occasions, I think I'm right in saying that I've pushed the envelope a little bit sooner than other people. I remember back in, must have been around about 2006, when I produced the Tarot of Dreams, initially as a self-published edition. I accompanied it with a CD, and it actually had a reading software on it. This was before smartphones, iPhones, so I would say it was the first tarot app in a sense. You know, I paid some sort of like nerdy guy from college to do the programming, and yeah. And several years later, as in like about 5 years ago, when I did my Kipper deck, I produced the augmented reality, you know, so you could sort of like point your phone at the cards and the phone would play like a little video, which I used as a kind of cheat sheet for beginners, because each little video would end with just a textual summary of the meaning of the card. But once again, just pushing the envelope.
Yeah.
It was fun. I enjoyed that. Yeah.
I have a question regarding the something that a lot of people wanted me to ask you, and I hope you're okay with this question. I should have told you ahead of time. I think you'll be fine with it, though. A lot of people who are your followers and your fans want to know what you would think about them who are good at design and good at art and things like that. What you would think, and maybe what your biggest piece of advice you would give them if they were interested in getting into the business of designing a tarot deck, or maybe even Oracle at this time now?
I think first of all, you have to determine what your personal objectives are, you know? And so if you're a tarot reader who, for example, has a creative wish and desire to maybe produce a deck that's more intimately personal to him or her, that's one objective, and you can create the deck and it could be unique and you just use it on your own. Or you may then wish to share it with the community. You may think you've achieved something that will have a wider appeal, and therefore you will want to reproduce that. And that could still remain a kind of labor of love, if you will, you know. Then, if you want to extend that further and you have hopes of making some kind of financial gain from that, then you're in another league. Then you have to sort of decide, are you going to do this really for yourself and you're going to share that with other people? Or are you doing it for other people, but in your own style? And that is me. Not being a tarot reader at the very beginning, I had to make an assessment of who the audience would be and how I might best appeal to them, and do so in a way that they could not just only hopefully say, oh, that's pretty or that's nice, but they would get an emotional kind of response and relationship with it, but be able to use it. So the balance would be to make it personal, but to also make it generic enough, recognizable enough, traditionally faithful enough that it reaches other people, you know? And so that's the dilemma as soon as you extend beyond it being a personal project. And with that, a whole bunch of other stuff comes into play, you know, how much, how many, how, you know. First of all, there's the concept, you know, is it sort of a themed deck? How are you going to physically produce it? What will be the medium with which you will produce it? You know, traditional medium, oil painted, digital medium, or whatever. Who will then prepare it for printing? Who will then prepare it for publishing, i.e. distribution and shipping and sales and all the other stuff, you know? Are you going to go and present your ideas to a mass publisher, you know, the big guys, or are you going to use Kickstarter, or are you going to do it completely with your own, you know, money? So all those are factors, and I'm not in a position of, I wouldn't like to give advice, but I can share some sort of personal anecdotes that have worked for me and have failed miserably for me, if that's where you want to go.
If you're open to that, that would be great.
Yeah. Well, I mean, starting with the Gilded, which was my first deck, I mean, with that, I was, you know, I tried to be as careful as possible, you know. Who was I to sort of like reinvent the wheel, you know? But I think that I was in the right place at the right time to a certain extent, because at that time, it was all dominated by the major publishers. They were the ones with the publishing volume, the distribution, and the retail presence, yeah? And the tarot market, as far as I'm aware, would principally have been the various Tarot de Marseilles, the Rider-Waite, and the Thoth, you know? I think maybe like the Robin Wood and whatever. I can't remember for sure, but it was really a handful of decks, as I remember at the time. And most of them were traditional classical decks. And I think the market was ready to embrace a bigger audience, you know? And a lot of that new audience was not that enamored with a classic look. You know, the woodcuts and Pamela Smith's sort of pen and ink work, as charming as all of that is, it's a charm that's really based on romantic sort of appreciation of something that's old, valid but old, whereas the new market was maybe ready for something produced in a way that they could better relate to, you know? And whilst the Gilded was pretty crudely done, you know, it was the early days of Photoshop and I was fumbling around with a mouse, you know, to make it work, it still must have struck a chord, because the sales of it were took the publisher by surprise. Didn't take me by surprise because I had no expectations. But I know it took the publisher by surprise because the contract was based on the assumption that they would sell 7,000 to 10,000 copies, yeah? And as of now, they've sold about 650,000. So someone screwed up in their assessment, you know? something went right. But with that said, I'd be the last one to say that it's the grand thing. It's not. And I look back on it with rather cringy emotions. It's like watching a Star Wars movie from 20 years ago, and the special effects are really cheesy. But you have to see it in the context of the time that it was produced. Yeah.
Exactly.
And so but that sort of lit my fire, as it were, that, and even before it was published, I'd handed over all the stuff, and then there was a very long, boring wait for it to actually be published. And during that period, I'd already got the itch for this, and so I started working on the Tarot Dreams, and by then, I was beginning to get some feedback from the fact that I'd posted the images online. And so I realized that I was onto something, but I also realized that this was going to be boring for me, at least, to simply faithfully reproduce another clone or another close adaptation of what someone else had done 200 years ago. It doesn't do much for me, enough already with sort of like Tarot de Marseille's redrawings or recolorings or reline work, as beautiful as they are, it's just not my thing.
Right.
And so with the Tarot Dreams, I was already beginning to say, okay, this is what the cards are supposed to mean. So I've been told, so I've read, but they don't really say that for me. If I hadn't read that in a book, simply by looking at the image, I would say, really? Is that really what it's supposed to mean? Now I criticized that at the beginning. I said, well, the drawings aren't very good, so I'm not going to use that as a reference point. But in a way, the fact that they arguably are not that technically good, that, in the strictest sort of draftsman sense, is actually their strength, because the lack of clarity, the lack of specificity, if that's the right word, of their meaning is their strength, because that allows wiggle room for readers to modify the reading. It's not absolutely black and white. It is dependent on the other cards. It is dependent on the querent's specific question of that day, yeah? And so when I started pushing the envelope, I did so in an adventurous way that I still wanted to maintain as best I could the vagueness of what the card might mean, yeah? And so deck by deck, I started to concentrate more and more on things like facial expressions as opposed to specific, clear scenes, because that way expressions can be interpreted by the reader as they feel to be appropriate, yeah?
Yes.
And so you'll never find people smiling on my decks or being overtly happy or sad or angry, other than maybe the Five of Wands, where they're all sort of like beating the crap out of each other. But other than that, I leave it, once again, to be nebulous. And if I can just bear with me, assuming I'm going to be pressing the right buttons, I'm going to open a couple of files that I think emphasize that point. Just bear with me when I find them. Okay, let me drag that down here. And then I hope if I click the right thing, you'll see them. Oh, your host, Matt, if he could enable my ability to share my screen.
He's got it.
He's doing it now.
Okay. All right, can you see that?
It's coming. Yes.
There it is.
Got it.
Okay, so for example, these three, I mean, we're all sort of familiar with the Rider-Waite versions of these, where the guy's under the tree, there's a little cloud, and out of the cloud a hand is handing him another cup. Okay, you can interpret that in in as many ways as you want. But nevertheless, I wanted to emphasize the expression, like take this one where it's probably a little bit easier to see. So here's the guy, he's got 3 items that he already possesses, let's say, 3 cups, and he's either presented with a 4th option, or he's dreaming of or imagining an extra one. So you could extrapolate from that and say, oh, well, the guy's being greedy. He's got 3 and he's already thinking about the 4th. Or you could say in a positive way that he's got 3 and he's ambitious and he's planning for the future and he's thinking, how can I add to that? And all the other things that you can think of. Yeah. But I'm leaving it open by just having that expression that can mean whatever you want it to mean on any given occasion, yeah?
Yes.
Now, with this one, with the 7 of coins, in the Rider-Waite, I mistakenly or otherwise, and I don't think I'd be the only one, assumed that was a positive card in the sense that you've got the guy leaning on his garden hoe or whatever it is, and he's looking at the 7 swords, the 7 coins. And one always assumed that it was like reward for one's work, that it's, he's done the work and now it was harvest time and he was benefiting from the fruits of his labor. And then after reading some of the books from Marcus Katz, actually, The Secrets of the Rider-Waite, he suggested that Pamela's was actually portraying something that was very negative. She was either depicting someone who works hard, or has worked hard certainly, but these rewards aren't his. He's merely an employee, a serf, a laborer. He doesn't own the land, or even worse, she related historically to the fact that it was the Irish potato famine. So that abundance that is being depicted on that card actually is like a heap of failed crops, So that was oh crap, I thought I've got this wrong. But is this new version the right version as well? And so I was rather confused. So how I approached it was can you see this again?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So in this case, I'm sort of hedging my bets. I've once again shown or depicted a neutral character working at the field, but we don't know yet, and neither does he, whether this is going to work out for him or not. Is that crop going to make it? Is it going to fail? So I've deliberately produced that sort of nebulous, one way or another, possibility. Whereas with Pamela, no one actually knows for sure what she meant because it wasn't clearly depicted enough to categorize, yes, that's a this or a that situation. So that nebulous factor sometimes from the older decks is because they're not, and I don't mean this offensively, not produced that well in an illustrative sense. But nevertheless, it's positive in a way that they're not. And I try to reproduce that positivity or flexibility in a more deliberate way. Does that make sense?
Yes, totally. And I see that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that's kind of been my approach. But I think what's an interesting thing to comment is how at the beginning, having been a professional graphic designer, marketing, advertising sort of person, as much as Tara was weird and strangely different to anything I'd done before, I still approached it in a very similar way. This was a project. It had an approximate deadline, even if that was determined by me, and it had X number. It had to be produced in a certain way to be printable, blah, blah, blah. So it had all of these parameters that I was used to as a professional graphic artist, yeah? But And I was considerate of the end audience, you know, these people that believe in all this, even though I was kind of on the fence, you know, I was not that familiar with it, but I respected their belief and I designed with that in mind. And that's fine, you know, as a professional, that's it. I print them, I publish them, they sell, they don't sell. I enjoyed it, you know, it was enjoyable. But then I went to the first Reader Studio as a vendor. So once again, it was more for the commercial aspect, I guess, but also as a means of like seeing my stuff and everyone else's in action, as it were. And that really turned it into something else, you know? That really transformed it from this project, this graphic exercise, if you will, to an experience of a new world for me. The people that were there, obviously they were really into it. And I, as a vendor, had the time and the space to sort of sit there during the sessions when there was no sales going on. And I could listen to the presentation and I could also observe the reaction to those presentations and sort of like just let it all sink in, you know, what was working, when were the crowd sort of nodding approval, when were they falling asleep, but what made them all tick, you know? Plus the actual interaction, you know, here were people coming to me and asking if I could sign the deck, which obviously was a bit of an ego trip, but it was a direct final interaction with these statistics that I had been considering up to that point, you know? Yeah. So that was really mind-blowing for me. It turned it into something far more emotional, and I had a great time. I mean, on the first Reader Studio, I remember Maria and I, we walked into the bar, just the two of us, there was no one either side, and then I could hear some other people, they'd already made friends, or they already knew each other. And then, I don't know how the conversation came up, but I think someone mentioned something about one of the cards in the Gilded, and so I casually commented. Then they said, "Oh, you're so-and-so, and come over and join us," you know? And 5 minutes later, the conversation went from deep, sort of esoteric, sort of like translation of what everyone thought of this and that. It's all sort of very serious and on the point of the theme, you know, of the whole conference. And within 5 minutes, I kind of ruined it all because I told my Superman joke, and James Wells sort of like spat out his martini cocktail, and it went downhill from there. You know, it was amazing.
That's why Roger. That's why Roger loved having you there when he went last year.
I had to have somebody there with me.
You made him happy. You were there because you brought a little levity to the situation, right?
Exactly.
No, he liked it anyway, but he was really glad you were there to give your jokes. And of course, everyone loves you there anyway, but Roger really enjoyed that. So,
but it was that and subsequent conferences were awesome because they merely sort of reinforced that. And I met a lot of people from just, as I say, just someone who happened to own one of my decks, blah, 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 to Mary Greer, Rachel Pollock, Robert Place, Pedro Valenza, all the big shots, you know, ooh, I'm in with, you know, hi, you know. And I remember Mary Collins from the UK, she came up to me, and this did surprise me, honestly. She said, would you mind if I interviewed you? And she brought out this little kind of cassette player at the time. And I kind of looked around and said, me? Yeah, okay. And she said, oh my God, you speak English really well. And I said, well, okay, I hope that doesn't disappoint you because if you want, I can talk like a Pavarotti, you know? But it was awesome. And I remember sort of like finding 5 minutes just one-on-one with Wald Amberstone,
yeah.
And I said to him, honestly, Ward, I don't know what the hell I'm doing here or whether I belong here, because I don't read Tara, and I'm not completely, I don't get the whole thing yet. You know, for me, I'm just making it look pretty with all the best of intentions, but, you know, and so it's really weird because for the next 10 years of additional Reader Studios, he's always sort of found another 5 minutes. We've met in the bar or over coffee in the morning and or in the lounge. And every time he asks me the same questions. Well, does this make any sense yet? No, ask me next year, you know? Oh dear, oh dear.
Has
And
has anyone
sorry.
ever given you, not that they should, I'm just curious. I'm going to ask a tough question. Has anybody ever given you any crap in this business about the fact that you don't read?
Oh, not so much that I don't read, because I made the absolutely right call in admitting that from the very onset. But I've had a lot of people comment online, obviously, that clearly I didn't get it. You know, you could tell by the way I'd done this or that card that I didn't get it. And that really took the wind out of my sails because I believed them. Maybe I didn't. And I was making some awful hash of it all. And, you know, but then I began to realize that maybe they didn't get it either.
Right.
And that Tara is all about expectations. It's all about tradition and following what has come before. And that goes back and back indefinitely until, you know, someone must have sort of decided that this means this and this means that, and the Queen of Wands represent, you know, who said that?
Right.
And therefore, who's to say that if I depicted it a different way, that was categorically wrong?
Right.
And yet, I have to be honest, I mean, I've confronted a bunch of those situations where people have written to me or posted in public forums some very negative comments.
Did they
Yeah.
ever say it to your face?
Well, first of all, they probably wouldn't even have bothered to come up to me.
No, that's what I'm
But
saying. It's real easy to say it.
I do sense that there's a kind of elite section of the community that I will never be kind of part of that. And I'm okay with it. But I don't know.
No, I think I think people tend to attack people really almost. I don't think anybody's immune when people are attacking somebody from behind,
Easy to do behind a computer screen.
to hide behind a mail or a computer screen, and I don't think anybody in the business is
I'll
immune.
give you an example. When I first posted my images for the Gilded Reverie Lenormand, I had this lady on a carousel horse floating around there, and that really was ridiculed. You know, first of all, it had always been a male on a horse, you know, who was a deliverer of a message. And so even though my female was on a horse, albeit a carnival horse, holding a letter, that was deemed to be, you know, he just doesn't get it. It's supposed to be a man. Da, 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 da. And one particular comment, I remember it to this day for its stupidity, was that the woman wrote that obviously he's aiming to attract the sort of like adolescent male teenage market by showing this card as a scantily dressed woman.
Yeah.
Does he not realize what the profile is for Tara readers? It's about 80% women and the rest are gay. I mean, not in totality, I'm not going to speak in absolutes, but general enough that comment was absolutely stupid, you know? So anyway, in the end, it is what it is.
Yeah,
It
it
really
is. And they're
But
gonna,
yes, to answer your question, I've taken some hits along the way. Yeah.
probably anybody with success takes those hits, right?
I'd like to share with you a rather funny image because in the end, I got so pissed off by it that I deliberately did it. I posted this and claimed that it was going to be my new mouse card for my new Lenormand. And they went ballistic. First of all, they believed me.
You'd like to stir the pot. Here we go.
I mean, seriously. Oh dear. I just posted it to get the response, and boy, did it, Anyway, the other thing I wanted to show you was some of the people that I've included in my decks. I think that's because you will recognize some of them. Let me just, people, family. Yeah, here we go. Just bear with me if the screen's off. Okay, can you see that?
Not yet. Matt, is he good to go?
Not yet.
Okay,
Um,
Matt's ready, but we can't see it, so it should.
Hang on, it might be me. Let me.
Okay.
Screen sharing has failed to start. Please try again later. Okay. No, I think it might be your end.
Okay.
Oh, in which case I'll just carry on
He's
talking.
no,
then.
he's checking it again.
Okay.
We're gonna try again.
Try one more time.
Try one more time, Ciro.
Okie doke.
Looks okay on our end. I mean, like he's got it set up.
No, I'm still getting the same message that screen sharing has failed. Okay. All right. So let me move on to another point. Yeah. So going back to the production of it for other people, when I first got into this, say it was a market that was absolutely dominated by the major publishers, and because they had the channels for distribution, and whereas now there's a lot more independent decks, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and that is opening the field considerably because it's allowing for far more sort of variations, choices, but also, and here I'm going to get into trouble because for
Just
the
go
first
for
sort
it.
of 10 to 15 years, there was me thinking that I was at war with the traditionalists, They were not open to new ideas, and I felt they were far too conservative, they weren't open. But now I'm beginning to kind of sympathize with their concerns because whilst a lot of decks represents a lot of choice, it also means a lot of new and exciting stuff, but it also means a lot of mediocrity.
Hooey, yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of decks. And once again, I'm not going to say all, but there's a lot that are clearly, and especially in the Lenormand world, that are clearly sort of like downloads from Google searches, copy paste, application of a Photoshop filter, and voila,
Mm-hmm.
Now, the irony is that they're not bad looking decks either, but I don't know. The fact that they can be produced in what must be just a few weeks means that we've entered an age of mass production of tarot decks. In a sense, wonderful because it opens the door to a whole bunch of creativity. Everyone is going to be pushing that little envelope in their own direction further and further. And ultimately, this is where I share some of the concerns of the traditionalists. Is that going to come at the cost of the essence, the magic that is tarot in the historical sense,
Yeah.
I initially, when I did it, I thought I was doing something magical as opposed to simple commercial work. And I don't know if I still feel that same way. There's just so many decks that it's a concern that it may just water down the whole genre. That's my concern. I don't know.
What I would say
What do
to
you
that, Roger, what do you think of that as a buyer as a store owner?
So Yeah, I mean, I get it because there's so many of those things out there that's.
Oh, excuse me, can you see my
Oh, yeah,
screen?
now we see it.
Now we see it. Yeah.
Oh,
I
the
recognize
screen
Megan
released.
there.
Okay.
Yeah.
In that case, I want to just go back and show you one thing, which is some of the people I've put in the decks. Okay, so I think you'll recognize this young lady.
Yes, I do.
Well, she was, for example, that was exactly some of the magic of the earlier Reader Studio. I happened to meet her in the breakfast bar, I think, and we sat at the same table, started chatting, and gave her my usual pickup line, like, would you would you like to be one of my queens? Anyway, so this is my wife, Maria, it's Temperance, my daughter, Sasha.
Sasha. Yeah.
This is my my stepson, David, my mother-in-law, and me, of course. The number of hours I had to stand in front of the damn bathroom mirror. But anyway, I got it right in the end. Oh, I love it.
I don't.
Oh, dear. So, yeah. These are some of the people I've met along the way, and it's been such a great experience. It really has. There's Wald. This is Mary Kathleen from London, and here she was. I printed out my Lenormand cards before they were actually printed, as a commercial deck. I just printed them out on my Epsom, and I asked her to kind of give them a test drive. Yeah. This is where I met the man, Mr. Taro. Mm-hmm. This is some of the people trying to pick my pocket, so they told me. The studio. This is Mary, and she was the one that suggested to me to consider doing a Lenormand deck. We met, at the breakfast bar. I seem to meet a lot of people at the breakfast bar, and she suggested the idea, and that made sense. There's a Marielle, the Three Musketeers, Patrick Valenza, Robert, and myself. And Barbara Moore, where it all started.
That's right.
Long time ago. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, so to my point, here's an example of expectations with Taro, where you can't go too far off target, because you could be starting something new and exciting, yes, but you can't stray too much without taking the risk that it's unrelatable too, And it's a bit like going to a store at Christmas and you see this guy, I mean, it just doesn't look right. You're expecting to see this guy, but actually, when you think about it, this is the analogy of Taro. Sometimes the history of Taro is one of repetition and retelling. So those traditions, those myths, become established as truths, or at least as the correct way. Yeah, and yet, just like with Santa, it's complete. In some cases, it's false. Someone at some point made the choice that that image should be this, and that image should mean that. Just like this guy is dressed the way he is, not because of some traditional thing going back to the year of Saint Nicholas, is because in the 40s or 30s, Coca-Cola designed this uniform. That's it.
Right.
If it had been Pepsi, he would have been dressed in blue. And yet it's so much part of our pre-established sort of thoughts of what he is supposed to look like. And there's a lot of that goes on in Taro,
Right.
And you're taking a risk if you stray too far from that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. What else? Um, what else would you like me to
Right.
ramble on about? Or are we running out of time? You tell me.
Well, we're coming up on it, but
We'll talk all night.
the interest. What happened to
Well-
our printer?
I don't know. It just kicked on
All
over
of a
there all of a
sudden,
sudden.
Ciro, somehow you just turned on our printer from
Yep.
Miami, Florida. Our printer just started turning on and printing,
Yep.
printing out.
So, you see a lot of you want to talk about the pirated stuff? I mean, we get it in here a lot. People are like, oh, look at this. And you can look and you can tell it's just not legit.
Yeah.
Well, Well, let me correct that. We don't sell it.
No, no,
They'll
no.
bring
They
it,
bring it
they'll
in
bring
here.
it in and they'll ask, and we kind of look at them just like we do a crystal that they've paid $2 for, and they'll say, this is whatever, and Roger will say, no, that's a painted rock. What did you expect? You got it for, you think it's moldavite, and you got, or whatever, and you got it for $2. What did you expect? You got it on Wish. Now, come on. And
Yeah.
so, same thing, they'll show us a deck. They paid $4 for it, and we say no. You're going to get one of Ciro's decks. You're not going to pay $2 for it. So what did you expect? We're not ugly about it. We try to educate them, but if you're getting it off of, and I will say it out loud, you get it off of Wish. There's a good chance it's it's
Oh, definitely.
pirated.
Definitely
right?
so.
Yeah, I mean, it's been going on forever, but to be honest, when I first became aware of it, it was small fry. It was clearly an individual. In this case, it was from the Ukraine, I recall it, because the first time it was even more shocking, and they were clearly scans of an original deck, and at a cheaper price. The box was different, blah blah blah. It was annoying, but it wasn't going to mean I couldn't pay off my mortgage, But over the years, without a doubt, it has grown to be a significant factor. And, the elephant in the room, and I hope I'm not going to offend anyone, the vast majority is coming from China.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say all, because that would be an absurd and unprovable statement, but the majority. And I know that, and that's not just plucking statistics out of the air or hearsay. I know it because an hour ago, in preparation for you asking this question, I went onto Wish and onto Alibaba and onto Amazon, and I counted over 40 of my decks that were clearly copyright infringements on the first scroll of each page. So the sheer volume has grown exponentially, plus the sophistication of it. It is now no longer one person with a scanner somewhere. It is an organization who understand the mechanics of the sales platforms on the internet.
Yep.
They have 20 or 30 versions of my Gilded this or my Tarot Dreams that, all with different prices and slightly different descriptions, but often with the same photographs. And it's so blatantly, it's the same central source. But they are on there, they are present on those sales platforms in multiple numbers, so that when someone goes to the effort of taking one down, so what? They're not out of business for 1 minute because they're still up there. So I was very vocal about this, and I gotta say, I'm not being a saint. I'm not trying to be Mr. Wonderful, because it affects me. Arguably, I have the privilege, the honor of being the most pirated schmuck out there. But at this point in my career, it's not a killer. But I think it can be for new people. If their decks are perceived to be attractive enough, the numbers of sales could be an issue, But never, so I was very vocal about this, and I think I succeeded in making enough of a noise that other artists got on board, and there's been a whole sort of effort by many people, so the awareness has increased, the awareness of the problem. To the extent that I got some phone calls from the top guys of the top publishers on a Saturday even, and we're having a little chat and a cup of coffee and going through this conversationally, And it's scary because they're aware of it, but the conclusion is there's nothing we can do about it.
Wow.
Now, part of the problem also is that they're not scared about it enough yet because Taro is enjoying a boom period.
Right.
Even COVID, God forbid, has made it even more of a lucrative
Yes.
business right now because people need that emotional support. Yeah. And so the numbers are still good. But my point that I made to them was yes, they are. But if the numbers are going gradually up for the legitimate ones, but the piracy ones are going up even faster, at some point they get really close to each other and one is going to influence the other. But in conclusion, guys, their response was, and I cannot argue with them, if Rolex, Gucci, Dolce Gabbana, Versace, tutto lo demás can't resolve this problem, what possible chance do Taro Publish or independents have?
Right.
It's,
Good point. Yeah.
I don't know what to say. And ultimately, they're also right. The average person that's going to pay $4 or $5 or $8 for a deck isn't necessarily going to be someone who would pay 25, So it's not necessarily lost income. Having said that, there's a lot of people who, morals apart, what the hell? I can pay 25, I can pay 8. I'm going to pay 8. And that's human nature, isn't it?
Yeah.
So people that are watching, listening, or whatever need to know is go to the legitimate source to actually make these purchases, whether it's your website, come to the store, come to any store, not Wish, not Amazon, not any of those places where it's just you get what you get.
Yeah.
Support your,
And what you get will be, for the most part, a poor reproduction.
Yeah.
The card stock will be thinner. The box will be a plainer tuck box rather than a sturdier magnetic thing. No signature cards, as in my case, but anyway, and probably no book.
Right.
I get at least 2 to 3 emails a day from people who either innocently or rather cheekily are asking me if I can provide them with a PDF because the deck they bought didn't come with a book.
Yeah.
I mean,
Interesting. Interesting. Well, I want to talk about my kimonos.
Yeah.
So I did a quick change. The first one I had on was I'm a Cancer. So I had on my beautiful Cancer kimono. This is the first one I bought. And I believe that Maria makes these, right? Maria.
Yes, she does.
Yeah, so I had, are we good, Matt? Yeah, so I had on my Cancer kimono, which was my first one that I bought. And then I think my second one was, and this was about the time I had bought one of these and then I was gifted one of these. I think when you guys came, do I have it turned the right way? This beauty, remind me, Ciro, because I'm drawing a blank. It's from the Marchetti deck, right?
Yeah, it was the moon card.
Yes, I love it. It's from this deck right here, Matt. And that I have a signed card in, I believe, with my name on it. And then
Well, that's the original deck.
That's the
It
original,
doesn't look like that.
yeah.
The boxes are different now.
And then I can't show y'all. I'll take this one off in a second. And this one's beautiful that I have on now. And so I wear them all the time and literally without fail. So these I get from Ciro's website, you guys. And I go straight to his website. I order them. And Roger knows when I'm on it. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing anything. But he always knows. But literally.
I was looking for mine.
Is it not true that every single time I wear them,
Oh, she gets stopped all the time.
I get
Oh,
stopped.
that's so beautiful. Where'd that come from?
I get stopped constantly to row people, not to row. It doesn't matter when I'm
Yep.
out. Totally got stopped. And then behind Matt, we have our Soultopia, our private Soultopia banner that we got. And then we have all sorts of, I'm drawing a blank, for throwing cards.
The reading
The
cloth.
cloth. Reading
Cloth.
cloth.
Thank you. Gosh, my words are not coming to me. So, and we have so many more decks. This isn't even close to all the decks we have.
And
a
puzzles?
lot of them are at home. So, but I love my kimonos, you guys. That is my thing because, and I'm known for them because I actually posted on my Facebook just one of those fun things. Tell me what do you first think of when you see me? And I thought, oh God, who knows what they're going to say? And somebody put your kimono and your boots. And it's usually it's these kimonos that they said. And it's one of your followers. And I was surprised she didn't write Ciro kimonos and boots because she came when you were here. And not only that, you guys, somebody had at one of the events when he came here, it was actually... he came to
his
see
tattoo?
Ciro, and he had a tattoo of what was it?
It's
The
the
three
angel.
the Three of Swords. That he had a tattoo of your deck on
I
his arm.
remember the occasion. I remember the person, but I can't remember which.
It was
what
the,
two.
I think
yeah,
it was the Three of Swords.
I think so.
And then the other cool thing that I thought, Ciro, was the person that you posted that had done an embroidery of one of
No, it's a cross stitch.
a cross stitch, yeah. And then
Phenomenal! My God, she must have taken. Well, she took like 3 years.
3
apparently.
years. Yeah, it was amazing.
Wow.
It was beautiful though, and I love cross sticks. So, but I don't have time to do it much anymore.
She had me go to the store the other day and buy some for her, and they're still sitting in the bag. That was 4 weeks ago.
I'll get to it. I still have some puzzles to do. I'm going to do them over the holidays, and then I'll get to that cross stitch.
You better get that other book
Good
read.
luck. Listen, I don't have any jokes for you, but I do have a couple of what I think are amusing stories, if I may share with them.
Okay.
When I was attended a Torah conference in the UK several years ago, and we were in the lobby, the presentation, right, and the lobby was really big, far too big for the number of people that we had now in our group. So we were on one side of it, and we're in the middle of a presentation, fortunately not mine, and suddenly there was a drop of water came down and landed on the table there where the person's computer was, and then another drop, and then another drop, and eventually it was like this water was just pouring down from the ceiling. Everyone, like about 200 people, had to get up and move to the other side of the hall,
Mm-hmm.
sort of like. And I turned around at that because I was the next one to go on and present, and I turned around to the organizer and I pretended to be really pissed off. I said, I think this is completely unacceptable. I said, there's over 200 Torah readers in this room, and no one saw that was coming. Anyway, so she didn't invite me back again. So 3 years later, I'm at another Torah conference in the UK, and I'm presenting. At the end, I always end up with a little sort of rock and roll piece, and just not very Torah-ish, but nevertheless. And I flick cards out into the audience, and some of them have like prize written on it. Whoever gets those cards, I give them the prize. Anyway, so I'm flicking these things, and the crowd are going nuts. They're all sort of jumping and fighting for these cards.
They do.
And
I know.
one gets stuck in the air conditioning vent, And there's like 3 ladies climbing on stools and tables to try and reach this card. And I thought, holy crap, we're going to fall, break a leg, we're going to get sued. And so once again, I didn't get invited back. But what was interesting, as I finished my piece after all that excitement, the next guy walked by me, the next guy to speak, and he sort of whispered, he said, gee, thanks for nothing. It had been a complete riot at that point. So unbecoming of a serious spiritual crown, I thought. So that went well.
You're a hard act to follow. Did you have any questions from anyone that you wanted to read on there? And okay, I didn't know
Oh,
if
no,
you're following.
they're just all watching.
They're just all watching.
And I see Fangirl on here. Just Fangirl and
Fangirl.
love the
Churros.
decks.
Yeah.
Buy your decks at Soultopia. It said it. I was just reading what
They
it
said
says.
it. Yeah. You
Beautiful.
you
I
just
think
made
that
that-
one's for me. It says beautiful. I think they're talking about me.
No, you probably wrote buy your decks at Soultopia. did you?
No, I didn't. Not this time.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much,
Okay.
Ciro. Did you have anything else,
You're welcome.
Ciro, that you wanted to
No,
share?
I mean, right now I'm in a kind of lull. I'm not doing any more new decks. I don't feel kind of motivated enough, at least not for now. But we're doing some other projects. I'm doing some tapestries,
Oh,
which I'll be offering those in the new year, and working on a kind of a video, which will be kind of an elaborate portfolio.
oh.
Okay.
Are we out of time?
Matt, do we
Yeah, I
have?
think so.
No, we go. Matt says we're good.
We're good. Okay, I'd like to show you just this starter piece. It's only the intro, but I'm kind of really getting into it. QuickTime Player. Let's see if I can share it. Okay, let's go to share and see if this works. Okay, can you see that?
Yep.
Yes, we can.
Okay, this is the intro to my portfolio.
Wow.
That's cool.
As
Yeah, so that's going
always.
to be like a theatrical device for just showing cards and stuff.
That's
It keeps
fabulous.
me entertained.
Yes, as always. I remember when you came here, the video that you showed, the presentation was like almost like a Broadway
Oh yeah.
play. It was in living color, like a movie, but it was almost like a Broadway production or something. I was like later, I was like, Chiro, they need to do your decks on Broadway. Now that wouldn't happen, would it? But do you remember me telling you that? I was like, I could see Chiro's decks on Broadway.
But I took your advice, my dear.
How so?
I took your advice. Oh, let me see if I can find it again. Oh dear, photos, videos.
Because I thought it was so. Do you remember?
Mhm,
It was.
I
Yeah.
do.
I was like, I'd go see that. It was so powerful and beautiful and colorful.
Okay. Once again, let me try and share this. If not,
I want to
okay.
see this.
I
now.
bought all the billboards on Broadway.
That's cool.
That cost me a fortune.
I love it, but hey, maybe that's how they revive Broadway.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe that's the comeback of Broadway right there, right? I love it.
I live in a dream world.
Well, thank you so much. I know you are so busy, and I know that you're going to be involved in StarCon coming up on January 22nd through
Yep.
the 24th. I'm speaking at that also. And so, and actually, Soultopia is going to have a virtual booth at that. It's all on Zoom. And so we decided to take the plunge and support that. And we're actually pretty excited. We've done virtual shopping during COVID where people could, we would shop and be able to show them, yeah, we have that in, blue, or we have it in purple. And so we are going to be a part of that too. So I'm looking forward to it. So for all you Florida people, all right? Yeah.
I will virtually see you there.
Yeah, we will virtually see you there. So thank you so much, Ciro. I know that you don't do that many of these appearances, so I really, really appreciate you doing that for us. Everybody loves you so much and loves all
definitely.
your products so much, and of course your jokes so much. So thank you so much. Tell everybody at home hi, and we will wrap it up for tonight. Thank you guys for listening tonight, where Roger and I discuss things that matter to our soul, and we hope that you will think about and decide and discern what matters to yours. Thanks for
Good night,
joining
guys.
us. Check you later. Bye-bye.